Hi guys, welcome to the breakout rooms of Zoom. And this is one example of how you can use breakout rooms during synchronous sessions. Breakout rooms are a great way to build learning communities. That's the point of how I use them in this example. And they work really, really well. So let's get into the example. I've sort of learned over time that one of the least effective ways of using synchronous meeting time is for me to present information. That can be done asynchronously, and so in order to maximize the benefit, the instructional benefit, and kind of the assessment, a formative assessment value of synchronous meetings is through this planning tool, an agenda. So this is an example of an agenda I sent out about 4 or 5 days before the scheduled meeting. This one took place on the 29th of October, and there is a point connected with it, a participation point. So let's go through the components of the agenda so you can see the example that I'm using. First of all, I like to start with a prayer. Sometimes I'll lead the prayer. Other times I'll ask a student to represent their school. That's another opportunity to use the synchronous meeting time as a learning community building exercise. But let's take a look at the prayer for this particular one. I'll share the screen here and just go over to the course site. And here's the course prayer. And this was a prayer to Saint Hubertus, patron saint of hunters and mathematicians and statisticians. So we say that prayer together, and it sort of sets the tone for the rest of the business in the meeting. The next few items in the agenda have to do with my announcements and their questions. No more than 3 or 4 or 5 minutes tops. This particular meeting, I shared the fall partner project, answered their questions, and so on. So that's a quick coming together moment and focusing on housekeeping items in the course. Next, I'll use not breakout rooms, but the polling function in Zoom, embedded in Zoom. You can have practice and warm-up exercises. I draw from this Barron's Review, topic 5 in this particular case, on setting up experiments and running surveys and so on. That was what this material is about. Next, number 4, I list the key concepts and concept clusters and terms that they need to know. So anytime there's a question, a student can just simply say, hey, can you go over the example, let's say, of confounding. So they'll have this agenda before the meeting, and they can circle any ones that they're not familiar with and ask for clarification. One way to get dialogue going is to ask if someone says, "Hey, what's confounding again? What's that? What does that refer to?" And I'll throw that up to the class. Who can come up with a good definition of that term? And so there's some Q&A going back and forth among all of us. So now we're about, 10 or 12 minutes into the meeting, and next is, I call it practice with a partner in breakout rooms. So they know this is coming. They've done it a couple of times before. So I remind them, though, don't forget our partner protocol, and that means as soon as they find themselves in a breakout room with a partner, I pair them up. The protocol refers to introduce yourself, tell the other person where your school is, what city you live in, something about yourself, and it's just a quick way to get to know who you're working with, and then you work on the problems together. And usually there are 2 or 3, sometimes 1, depending if it's a sample a College Board question or so. I think this one was a College Board one. But here's practice with a partner, part A, the elements of experimental design, and then they have that they can look ahead at, and then things that they need to do, 1, 2, and 3. So they prepare their answers, and then when we come back together in the large group after about 5 or 7 minutes or so of I don't give them much time, obviously, because they've had a chance to look over prior to the meeting what the problems are, and then they come back after 5 minutes or so with their partner, and I'll call randomly on partners and for the answers, and then back and forth on that. Here's another one. So. Practice with a partner, part B, bias, and then a third opportunity to practice with still another partner. So that's 2 partners that they get to work with, 2 or 3, I guess, using, and this is working with data that we have generated in our class. And they're getting familiar with how to use technology to set up a simple random sample. Frappy is a textbook term. If we have time, we'll go through that. And then a wrap up for the meeting with summary of what we've learned and what needs more work. So that's an example. I recommend the agenda as a planning tool, a way to get student participation. It gives them a little forewarning about what's coming, and that's another way of maximizing meeting times benefit. So let's take a look at a quick example of how to set up and administer the breakout rooms. I can't show everything because obviously I don't have people populating the meeting, but let me show you how you can set this up. So first of all, we launch Zoom. And I have a recurring meeting here for statistics, so we'll start that meeting. And, well, I guess I could start the video just so you can see me. Oops, oh, glasses. Here I am. And so down at the bottom, somewhere in the menus down at the bottom, you can see breakout rooms, and here's how I use them. You have the option of using, allowing the program to randomly assign partners, or you can structure your meetings and set up your partners ahead of time. That's done in the settings prior to the meeting. So but what I like is sort of the spontaneity of having the program assign them. I'm going to stop the video here just so we're not distracted by my jaw. Yeah, so here we go. So let's say I'll have 24 students. Sometimes if I have an odd number and I want to pair them up, somebody gets stuck with me as a partner. But let's say usually I have an even number, not always, but frequently it's worked out. Let's say I have 24 students, so that's 12 breakout rooms. And then you just create them. And if students were populating this meeting, you just, when you run the meeting, and there are a bunch of options about when you end the meeting, the breakout session, that is, you can allow them a minute to get ready. And also when I make an announcement in the main meeting room, everyone in the breakout rooms can hear me. The other cool thing about it is I can, when you press start the breakout meetings, the students on their end see an invitation to go to breakout room number 1 and so on. But from the control panel, I can see the names of students in breakout room 1, 2, and 3, and so on. And then I can drag my name and enter into the breakout rooms. So what this reminds me of is at Marquette High years ago when I used to think, pair, and share with students, pair up with someone in the room, and then teacher would go around circulating and answering questions and observing what the partners were doing and so on. So you can do that. I don't make it to every single breakout room, but I'll just pop in and see if they observe the partner protocol to get to know each other, and also if they have any questions or so on, and two, if they're working. Another nice feature is you can in the agenda you saw that we have 2 or 3 opportunities in that particular meeting to work with a partner. So you can recreate and scramble. You don't have to use, and that's a quick way of assigning new people to new rooms, and it works out pretty well, especially when the students are in attendance and so on. It's quite successful. They enjoy the opportunity to work with someone from another school, and they do that 2 or 3 times each meeting. So it's a nice way of doing 2 things at once. The partner protocol really encourages them to get to know each other. And I think a quick way of getting to know each other is by working on a set of common problems. So this is one way of using the breakout rooms of Zoom. And I think it's a good way of learning together. It's also possible for the teacher to moderate what's going on, and to make sure, as I said, you can drag your icon of your name and pop into all the rooms or selected rooms. It's a way of assessing student understanding as well. So it's an opportunity to formatively assess student understandings of the key concepts. And there are other ways of using breakout rooms, but this is one way that I've found is especially beneficial. And the goal of bringing the class together and knitting a new learning community together, despite our differences of time zones, mountain ranges, rivers and streams, and farm fields, and so on. It's a great way of bringing the students together. So thanks very much for listening, and happy breakout rooming.